Hey, this is WhyBeAre with Automation, the car company Tycoon game. And today we're going to be making a car for BeamNG.drive that is inspired by the old Renault Espace F1. And if you've never heard of this car, basically they took a Formula 1 car and they put a van body on top of it. So it was this vehicle that looked like a van, but drove like an F1 car. And it was ridiculously fast, and that's the inspiration. I'm not saying we're even going to use a van necessarily. I just want a vehicle that looks like it has no right to drive fast, and then it actually does because it's nothing like what it looks like. So the options I have for the body style, I got SUV, MPV, and van. Those are the three that I think will work good. And I'm just going to look through these and try to find the one that looks the best to me. And I also got to think about the size of the engine bay. Like if we get something like this, that engine bay is really small. We probably can't fit a big engine in it. So something like that's not going to work. We need something like this, where it has a nice big hood. We could fit a big engine in it. But that looks a little too old. I don't really like the 90s look for what I'm going here. I want something at least from the 2000s. That feels like the kind of era I'm going for here. And honestly, out of all these options, I think the most appealing is going to be the 2007 SUV, which is pretty massive looking. It's a wheelbase of 3.28 somethings. Like I have no idea what that measurement's actually supposed to be. Maybe yards? Like that's kind of a weird way to measure a vehicle, but that's my only guess because I thought I put everything to be imperial units and not like some metric unit. It could just be it's 3.28 meters. But anyways, like that's huge. This is a 2.3, 2.2, 2.6. Yeah, this is a very big body style. So this should work very, very well for what I want to do because it'll look very ridiculous. Now everything's going to be crazy. There is no such thing as an SUV that's built like this, but that's what makes it great. It's going to be carbon fiber for the panels, monocoque chassis, and then even a carbon fiber chassis. We're going to have a front longitudinal engine, so that way we can have a rear wheel drive or maybe even all wheel drive setup. That sounds fun. And for the suspension, we want nice and sporty, double wishbone in the front. And then how about, let's see, I could do either multi-link or push rod in the rear. Oh, that's kind of funny. It looks like the springs just kind of float in the air. Do the push rods look kind of funny? No, push rods look pretty predictable. So let's do a multi-link because I like the way that looks. Either option should work though to make a vehicle that handles well. So for the engine, we're not messing around here. This is basically going to be straight up a racing engine. So the block is magnesium because that's the lightest material option we got. The size of the engine, we're going to make it about 5 liters. So I'm just going to increase this until it gets to about 5 liters. There we go. It's 5.001 liters. You know, I kind of want to have a nice even number. So what I'm going to do is I'm just increase and decrease these numbers until hopefully we hit 5 liters even. I don't know if that'll actually be possible without making the ratios really ridiculous, but I'm gonna just, yep, there we go. Now it's exactly a 5 liter engine. Like maybe there was a racing series and the strict limit said 5 liter engine, nothing more. So they said, okay, we're gonna make exactly 5 liters on the nose to make the best engine we possibly can under the requirements. So head and valve is gonna be dual overhead cam, 5 valve. Just want it to be as easy as possible to make as much power as possible. Head material gotta be lightweight again. And I think, yep, aluminum is even heavier. So if we used cast iron here, that'd be an extra 80 and about extra 160 pounds between those two parts. So that's a lot of weight savings right there. Because this thing is gonna be big. We need to save as much weight as possible to make it actually drive good. So everything else here is pretty much gonna be simple. It's gonna be get the best option available. So billet steel, lightweight titanium, lightweight forged. Pretty sure those are gonna be excellent for what I want. And this engine, we need it to run a real high compression because what we're doing here is we're going to make a naturally aspirated engine. Last time we made a V8, it had a turbo on it. This one though, no turbo, just the way it is like that. And we're going to have a direct injection per cylinder setup. Again, just ridiculous engine to make as much power as possible. I'm going to increase the fuel mixture some because I know you can get more power if you have more fuel in it. And ignition timing, I won't touch yet. RPM limit, I think we could get this thing to probably rev to like 9,000. So we'll put it at 9,000 and see if that works. Headers, race tubular. It's a race engine. Exhaust, I'm going to make it as big as possible and I'll tone it down later on. And all of that can be like that. Actually, we don't need a catalytic converter. This is basically a race car. So forget the environment. We're going to have none. Right now, it's making 570 horsepower. And I'm sure we can pop a little bit more power out of this thing. There's no warnings or anything at the moment. So first thing we'll do is just increase the compression until it knocks. So we can get this thing to go pretty good on the compression. We can get up to 14.6 and then it starts to knock. Next up, let me go ahead and reduce the exhaust size some. I'm sure that'll help a bit. There we go. We got it all the way up to 642 horsepower. That's pretty good. I want to try to get a little bit more power out of it though. So what if we go over to the fuel mixture and we keep increasing it until it starts to run rich. So there it's running rich. So then we bring it back down and then we'll increase the ignition timing to maximize the power. Well, that's actually as far as we could go. Although I think if we had more ignition timing, it might be better than having that much compression. So I'm going to raise that to like 80 and I'll reduce the compression to where the knocking stops. All right, 659 horsepower. That's pretty good. I am happy with that number. I was just wanting about 600, so I have an extra 59 horsepower. I do notice it kind of drops off of power past about 8,000 RPM or so. So that last 1,000 RPM is kind of useless, but it's nice to have an engine that revs that high. So we're going to leave it like that anyways. Actually, you can have it rev a little bit higher without having any sacrifice in quality, but we do have a sacrifice in power. Like, it just drops the higher it revs. It's not made for this, but I don't care. I like engines that rev high. They're more fun. Is the the exhaust diameter ideal for the engine? Looks like it. 3.25 is ideal. How much power do we lose with the catalytic converter? We do lose some. I'm curious, how much weight does it add though? Let's see. Is one of these is weight, right? I just gotta figure out which one it is real quickly. There's weight. So yeah, no catalytic converter saves me about 20 pounds. We're gonna go ahead and do that. That sounds like a worthwhile thing to me. And then manual testing the engine. Let's listen. Ooh, that idle is nice. Yeah, that sounds like a race engine. That does sound like a production engine. That's great. I'm kind of curious, what is the difference in terms of performance between a 90 degree and a 60 degree V8? Basically nothing. Like, it's a very minor difference. It doesn't change the power output at all. I'm just going to stick to a 60 degree one because it's a little bit lighter. Not by much. It's only 4 pounds. So like, you know, have a light lunch for a couple weeks and you save that amount of weight just using your body. Now, here's the fun part. Body style. That's what it's going to be. I'm not going to go too detailed on this body because I want to use this for something else in addition. But I want it to be as big as it can. And oh my goodness, that extends. Oh, and so does that. Oh, this is great. This thing is huge. Oh, this is going to be ridiculous on a racetrack. Like, I have wide fenders on it as well. What else can we do? Okay, we can bring this back. No, we can't. That's as far back as it goes. Like, that rear end is so huge. I'll make this a little bit more. Does that look a little bit better? Nah, it looks fine the way it is. Make this a little bit, make the engine bay as big as possible because we can. And what can we do over here? Is this something else? Yes! Maximum size! I think that's all of the messing around I can do. We have made an absolutely massive looking thing here, that's for sure. Now, I'm not going to do anything else really. Well, we'll give it a color. How about we make it a nice yellow? And can we do like a two-tone type thing here? Oh, I kind of like this because carbon fiber, what did that look like? I'm going to use, I can't decide. I want just like a gray color. I don't want plastic or carbon fiber, so let me just go ahead and make a kind of gray choice real quickly. So I'm going to go to all the way here and then make it gray. There we go. So I'm doing a yellow with gray on the bottom because that is very similar to the color scheme used on the Espace F1, which is the inspiration for the vehicle. Now, all these things though, we're not going to touch that because like I said, I have another project I want to use this vehicle for, which is why I needed a really big vehicle. You'll be seeing that video soon after this one. So we're going to leave that like that. Now we go to the drive type. I'm going to give it all-wheel drive. I just feel like it might be able to put down the power a little bit better because it's just so big. I have no idea what will really happen if we try to use just rear-wheel drive. Transmission, we're going to go with dual clutch 7-speed. It's going to be as sporty as it can be. Tops out at about 200 miles per hour. Spacing I'm not going to bother with right now. Differentials give them electric. And power distribution, I think it'll be pretty good if you do like a 60-40 split, or a 40-60 split, I guess, if you read the front and then the rear. Tires, we want big tires on this thing, so we're gonna go ahead and do well, we gotta figure out everything else before we can do the size. So semi-slicks, and then I want the rims to be pretty big, so how about we do like 22s? This thing is so big, it needs big wheels to not look ridiculous. And how big are the tires gonna be able to go? 365 and 335, that's pretty good. So increase the tire diameter to, no, that's too big. How about we do it to about 32? That looks pretty reasonable there. Get the rims to be an alloy, so we save, oh wait, no. Magnesium is lighter. So we'll use magnesium. It's just more expensive. That's why it's the lighter option, I guess. Brakes, we're gonna put big brakes on this thing. I don't care about the weight. I have no idea how much it's actually gonna weigh. I don't want to cook the brakes though, so we're gonna do that. For the brake bias, how about we do the exact opposite of the acceleration? So we had a 40-60 split for acceleration, so we'll do a 60-40 split for the brakes. I don't know if that's gonna be good or not, but it's something. Downforce, sure. Actually, we can't do any downforce because we don't have a wing or anything on this. It's okay, we don't need downforce. Strip the interior. No chairs in this thing. We want it to be as light as possible. Is one chair that's kind of fancy lighter than two bland chairs? I don't know. Have to do a little testing there. No interior fanciness, just strip interior. Power steering, yeah, it probably adds like no weight. Stability control, sure, because I probably couldn't control this thing if it didn't. Safety, we're not going to mess around with. This is a race car. It's going to have like real good safety because it can be crashed at high speeds. Suspension, active sport, semi-active. Just go crazy with it. Make it the racing setup. I don't care. And lower it some. How does that look? Ooh, that actually looks. I really like the fitment on this thing. That's cool. So the weight is 3630 right now. I'm curious though, if we go and we put the other seating in, what does that do to the weight? That increases it some. So we're going to do just the single seat setup. And that should be good to go. I got nothing else I really want to test with this. I mean, yeah, we could do some fine tuning to make it better, I'm sure. But I mean, it already does 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. That's a nice number. I don't know if there's much I need to mess with. You know, I mostly just want to get this thing into BeamNG.drive and try it out. So I'm going to export it and we'll see what it does in BeamNG.drive. Okay, so I exported the vehicle, then I got to thinking, you know what? Let's actually just go ahead and throw a wing on this thing. And I mean, we're going to throw a wing on this thing. I'm going to just grab this wing. I'm going to stick it right here, and we're going to make it as big as it can go. Now, that is how you get downforce. That is massive. We're going to save it like that, and now we're going to export it again and replace the old one, and now we'll try it in BeamNG.drive. I feel like whenever I make a car in automation, the best place to test it is the automation test track. And just looking at the thumbnail, this thing looks massive. Like the thumbnail, it looks like it's even longer than the D35 Beast, which itself is massive. So we gotta do a little bit of size comparison before we drive this thing. First, let's compare it to a normal vehicle like the pickup truck. And I don't think that's just the perspective. I think this thing actually dwarfs the pickup truck. But just to make sure, I'm gonna park it right next to it. And yeah, this thing is a good, almost probably like half a car length more than a pickup truck. So now let's go giant vehicle versus giant vehicle. Which is bigger, the D35 Beast or the one I just made, which I gave the name of Mr. Wing because I don't know, it just has a big wing on it. So I named it Mr. Wing. So we've got the fronts lined up about equal right there. And well, it looks like Mr. Wing has about another foot or two on the D35 Beast. So this is a massive vehicle I have made here. So how does it drive? Well, we're going to turn off stability control, get it a little bit farther away from that truck, and then here we go. Acceleration wise, that is pretty fast. We got up to 75 miles per hour in just no time at all. And now for handling, initial impression right there, that was not good. It went into the dirt. That is always disappointing when a car goes in the dirt on the very first set of corners. And what I'm noticing is it just doesn't want to steer in as much as I would want it to. Although I think we might be able to fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just come to a stop real quickly. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tear off the wing. So I'm just grab the wing and I'm going to put it at like 35 strength right there. And then we're just going to jiggle the car back and forth. The wing is off. And we're going to see if that makes it drive any better. I think the downforce might have just kind of made it a little awkward to drive for what I wanted. So let's see, is it better here? And it's hard to tell because there's so much banking on this corner, but it might be. Like, that corner actually felt like it could have been better. And kind of annoyingly, right here, this is where you'd want the wing. You're doing a high-speed section. You want that wing for a little bit of extra downforce when you're going so fast to keep yourself stable. And we don't have that, so I don't trust this thing to go that fast. So, oh, it's getting a little squirrely as I slow down. But you saw, it was moving. It was moving. We're going like 160 miles per hour. So this thing could probably get up to its 200-mile top speed I gave it. Which, for a vehicle this big, that's pretty extraordinary to go 200 miles per hour. I love it. Okay, that corner, I could actually tell how it handled, and that felt like it steered in a lot better than it was before. I think my modification of tearing the wing off was actually worth it. So adding that wing was completely dumb, and I gave it a name that's completely irrelevant because I removed the wing, but it's still Mr. Wing as far as I'm concerned. It's Mr. Wing and his amazing handling abilities without the wing. So the wing just holds him back. Oh yeah, for sure. Like right here, there is no way I could have done that with the wing on it. That felt beautiful as I went through those corners. I mean, the thing is, this is actually a pretty well-spec'd up car if you look at just power to weight ratio. It's 3,500 pounds and like 650 horsepower. That's a really, really good ratio. It's not as fast as something like a supercar, but it's definitely faster than a lot of sports cars out there, that's for sure, with these kinds of stats. And I want to do these corners one more time without the wing. And oh yeah, that feels so much better. Yeah, it slides a little bit more, but it feels like it actually churns into the corner. Before, it just would not go into the corner the way I wanted it to. So now we got to do a little bit of a crash test with this thing. We got the wing floating in the air. We're going to smack into it, and then we're going to smack into the wall. So first the wing, out of my way. And then next is the wall, which we're going to use a little bit more slow-mo on. Oh, look at that. The wing actually did some damage to my car. I didn't expect that. Oh, goodness, that deformation looks really janky. I think this vehicle is just too big. You can't make vehicles this big, WhyBeAre. They don't work right. It handles too good, too. Like, I actually am shocked at how good this thing handles. And it's funny, it kind of looks like a wagon, but this thing is basically an SUV that's just been lowered a bunch and then lengthened as much as possible. And we're on our wheels somehow. Engine's broken though, so it doesn't do anything. You can actually see the engine basically fell out. And you know what? That engine looks really small. Look at the engine. There's so much space in that engine bay. We got this little itty bitty engine in there. Oh man, you can fit like a V16 in this thing, is so large. All right, here's another thing. Can we bump the wing off with the crash? Yes, we can. And it flies. It flies. That was weird. It decided to go on a trip once I pulled it off. Last thing I want to do is I want to see what happens to the rear end in a rear end impact, because we got so much of the vehicle that overhangs. I want to see how it gets damaged. So we're just going to smack into this wall a couple of times to see what happens. Here is smack number one. And it didn't do too much there. Just kind of deformed a tiny bit. So how about smack number two? Wing fell off. And yeah, it's still just as long as before. It's not getting much shorter. I was wondering if you can make it a shorter vehicle by continuously smacking into the wall, but it doesn't seem like it has enough speed to really do that too much. And now the rear is kind of scraping on the ground. That can really mess up the drivability of a vehicle, so this is probably not going to last much longer. Although, yep, there we go. We are stuck because the bottom of the car is touching the ground, so the wheels can't actually touch the ground. We can just accelerate all we want. We are not going to move, although you would think the front wheels would be able to do something, unless maybe I broke the connection to the front wheels and all that driving. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys are interested, I could go ahead and put a much larger engine in this thing and see what happens. So if you're interested in seeing what happens when you give this thing like probably 2,000 horsepower, do leave a comment and I can try that out. Otherwise, till next time, this is WhyBeAre. I'll see ya.